Welcome to Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association Reasonable Doubt with the always incredible, amazing, wonderful, awesome Justin Harris.
But you're still introducing yourself.
Oh, that's funny. No, however, I will continue with the amazing, the incredible, the one, the only Kenneth Hardin, director of the MAC. How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Thank y'all for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Now, the official title is actually, let me get it straight, Director of the Harris County Office of Managed Assigned Counsel.
Yes.
So years ago, I guess there was a system in Harris County, at least for the misdemeanors, where the judge or the courts would have more control or direct control over who they appoint, who's taking on cases,
right,
how they're getting paid, slashing pay.
Right.
Yeah, I remember all of that, okay, for all you former judges. Slashing pay, not appointing those that you like, appointing those who were competent and who you felt that were maybe that you liked. And then at some point, everybody said, wait.
Who gave your campaign money?
Gave the campaign money. And look, I'm going to play devil's advocate on them with this in a second. I am. But at some point, somebody said, wait, hold on. There's a lot of qualified counsels out there. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of lawyers who are getting a ton of cases. Me, which is one of them. I'll raise my hand to that. I would get a lot of cases. I still get a lot of cases. This office decided to come and said, wait, this might not be fair. And even if y'all think it's fair, the appearance of impropriety was too great. So let's take it away from the judges and let's create this Office of Managed Assigned Counsel. Is that fair to say?
Those are some of the theories behind the office. There were a lot more, there's a lot more behind that. But yeah, I'm happy to exist. But the idea is that, yes, to make it an independent function on behalf of the defense bar for determining appointments and managing the appointment process. There were a lot of parties that played a role in our development, including but not limited to some of the criminal court at law judges. They actually got together and wrote the grant. This actually started back in 2018. The grant actually became effective in 2019. Ironically, I didn't become the executive director until 2020. So it's been some progress with a lot of people playing huge roles in getting us to where we are.
Well, we've had you on the show before. We had
right,
you on with, I think, Judge Draper,
right
as it was announced that you were selected as the MAC director.
Right.
And I remember I was also on Zoom, right?
Yeah, I was on Zoom as well.
And you've done this whole job in COVID.
It's been a challenge, yeah.
We just talked about kind of what y'all do, how you got started, what came before.
Right.
How's it been?
It's had its challenges. It's been quite a transition, as you said. I was appointed. I can tell you the exact date. I was appointed October 13th, 2020. I actually started November 21st, 2020. The office became an official Harris County department on November 23rd, 2020, that Monday after the Saturday where I started. So you're right. At that time, we're in COVID, right? So literally, we don't have an office. The JAD gave us a building off of Congress Street, and literally I'm operating out of office there. And you're starting with what your mission is, what your vision is, trying to find a place to even house yourselves. Was
it an office much like Lena Hidalgo's case manager? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I don't even know what it looks like.
That was funny. Like single. Okay, no, I'm kidding. So when you came in, you were initially with the public defender's office. Is that true? Is that right?
In Harris County.
Okay.
I was in the Harris County public defender's office.
Let's go ahead and dispel some of the myths. A lot of humans think that, Kenneth Hardin came in from nowhere. The guy's never been a lawyer. Who's this guy? The reality is that we all know, at least the people who are in the know, you had been a lawyer for an incredible amount of time.
Right.
And you had done amazing things out in Louisiana.
Right.
And you came to Houston as one of the big recruits for the public defender's office. And then this opportunity arises.
Right.
So let's get a little bit of background about you.
Sure.
Where are you from?
Sure.
What's your story, man?
Sure. I was born in Lake Charles, Louisiana. So I am a Louisiana native, born and raised. I spent a lot of time between Lake Charles and New Orleans. Most recently came from New Orleans when I started my career in New Orleans. I was at the Public Defender's Office there. I don't know if that many people know that much about Orleans Public Defender's Office, but they really battled a lot of things from lack of funding, high caseloads. It's a very tough place to practice. We call it two-lane and broad. That's the criminal courthouse there. It's heavy litigation, and it's a heavy pretrial practice where there's a lot of motions to suppress that you're having. Is not with trial like it is commonly here. It's before trial. There's a lot of litigation. There's a lot of trial. It's a very adversarial relationship between the defense and the judges and between the prosecutors and the judges. So I battled, and I'm using the word very lightly, battled a heavy criminal justice system there. And yes, I was recruited to come to join the Public Defender's Office, actually 2 years before I actually joined. I did not want to initially come to Houston because I was more of a person that enjoyed the fight. Well, not necessarily enjoyed the fight, but I wanted to be committed to the fight. There were a lot of struggles in New Orleans, and I want to see that through. I wanted to see that through on multiple levels, uniting the defense bar, being a good supervisor and trial attorney in New Orleans, seeing every case I can. I worked my way up from misdemeanors into handling mid-level felonies. And when I left, I was handling murders and first-degree rapes. That's actually what I'm most comfortable with. Ironically, we're servicing misdemeanors here, but I'm really more comfortable in felony land. So when I joined PDO, I did not do the bail division. They actually brought me right in the trial division handling felonies because of that experience.
You talked about a supervisory role out in New Orleans,
Right.
Louisiana.
Right.
What kind of supervisory role did you get to?
I supervised the trial attorneys, but we had a heavy caseload while doing so. So and that supervision really involved not just first chairing and second chairing their cases, but also meeting with them, making sure that their trial skills were developing, making sure that you had their back in court. And having the back in court, it's a little bit tedious there because it was common to be held in contempt. Right, nice. Judges are. I mean, nothing against the judges here. Really, I was really admired some of the judges here because judges back in New Orleans, they were quick to hold you. Being held in contempt was being put in a jail cell often. That happened. There were little fights in court between prosecutors and judges, and sometimes you had to interfere. It wasn't just about attorney development. It's literally, you really had to have their back there. It was dog eat dog there. And so that supervision was a big thing there. We didn't get paid much, and I came from a system where we didn't have retirement. My first time ever having retirement was in PDO. So you're doing all these things, handling little pay, having a lot of cases. I mean, I've had 250 cases at one time back in New Orleans. And so we obviously, the higher the case levels you went, the lower the lower the case. But,
well, if I'm not mistaken, everybody gets one murder out in New Orleans, though.
I'm kidding. Oh man, no.
I'm kidding. That's what all of my guys say when it comes.
I had about 20 murders at a time we had a mixed caseload.
Oh
yeah,
man.
But I've had about 20 murders at a time with different cases. So yeah.
Out there, forgive me for my complete lack of knowledge about the Louisiana system. It's you got trials to verdict. Is it unanimous out there? Is it not unanimous out there? Is it any different that you've seen? Talk to us about the battle, about the arenas down there.
My first time having a unanimous jury verdict was my trial in Houston, in Harris County.
Really?
So it was a 10-2 system. Yeah.
It's a 10-2?
That's why, like, for example, I hear a lot of the questions of, what's your win-loss and what is your, we even stopped counting in trials because they were always 10-2, 10-2, 10-2. What I can tell you is I only had one trial that was a unanimous guilty, right? Because they were all any loss that we ever had was always 10-2. And so now the thing is, that's one of the reasons why we had to have a very, when it's said when you're trying a case, right? You're trying a case at the district court level and you're trying at the higher level as well, right? We always had to make sure that we were preserving error and preserving objections, right? Because a lot of times they came back. They came back because we were always noting the record on the 10-2 verdict piece, right? So we were one of two states at the time that were non-unanimous, right? You still have Oregon, right? So yeah, when I was in the process of leaving here, that law got overturned, and now
Is it unanimous out there?
Now it's unanimous.
Wow,
But
I
I've yet to
can't-
try a case right when I'm leaving. Right, so I haven't tried one in New Orleans there. So
I've got one
What-
coming up
what-
next week, and you can come second share with me if you want.
I would be
Hey,
happy
no.
to.
No.
to get back in the
Look.
seat.
Look. The man does not need to be sitting trials with you. The man needs to be signing vouchers, which we're gonna get to
Well,
in a second.
He's
And-
in the
look.
courtroom. I'd be honored.
I am. I
Look.
spent my whole Memorial Day weekend just signing vouchers, but I'm comfortable in the courtroom.
Hey,
I
look.
love being in the courtroom.
I love that signature of yours on that. I was like, oh, there it is. Well, we're gonna get to that in a second.
Yes.
But we have a question out here. So,
Sure.
what made you to leave? What was part of your thought process or decision to leave the trial practice? Is one, but two, what the Livewire is saying is that we know you interviewed for a couple other counties, one of them including Travis County. Is what they're saying. I don't know, but why did you decide to do the Houston Public Defender or Harris County Public Defender's Office versus anywhere else? And obviously, anyone coming from New Orleans or Louisiana, and likely also, I would like to say anybody coming from Houston who's heavy trial practice, who's first degrees, who's handling the murders, handling the rapes. You can go anywhere on the planet, and just so long as you learn the rules of evidence or whatever their local
Sure.
rules are,
Sure.
You're going to be a very competent in a trial lawyer. So, of all the places that you thought about going, before you even the vision was to become the director of the MAC, what was part of your thought process on leaving Louisiana and coming to the public defender's office, specifically then choosing Harris County?
Sure. There's actually three reasons that I can summarize it. One, I was recruited for over 2 years by Judge Draper, who wasn't Judge Draper at the time. And the way I met Judge Draper is I'm also involved in other trial advocacy programs, Harvard Trial Advocacy Program, Gideon's Promise. I've been to NCDC, Louisiana Trial Institute. So I've rubbed elbows with a lot of people that would connect back to Houston in addition to what Judge Draper would tell me about some of the movement that's going on in Houston, right? You're seeing minority judges get elected. You're not seeing that anywhere else. You're not, right? And so, and it's very close, right? So you're hearing about these things. You're seeing the progression that I wish we would have had in Louisiana, right? We don't know change unless we've seen it. So I can say that movement was going on. The recruiting, obviously, by Judge Draper, and I won't say recruiting, but just really singing the praises of things of a system that values energy defense. Louisiana, they didn't value energy defense, right? And when I say they didn't value, I mean funding. They weren't funding those programs. Here they were. And remember, I say with the trial advocacy programs because I've seen other states, to your point. No one is doing that like Texas. Now, I understand that there's still goals and places to be and levels to rise here, but Texas is still amongst the South, amongst the best. Right? Now, the other piece is something that people forgot. I actually have a connection to Houston. I went to law school in Houston. I went to Thurgood Marshall School of Law, right? So Houston was familiar to me. It was familiar to me. In fact, I actually was not going to come back to Louisiana whenever I graduated law school. It was one of the few places that I actually got a job, right? And so I went back to Louisiana sooner than I wanted to be. Because at the time, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Rita, I wanted something different, and I didn't want to be too far away, and I went to law school here, and I grew to love Houston then. I've always loved Houston, and even when I was in New Orleans, I still would come back just to be there. There were times I would come to Houston, and I was already looking in Franklin Street, not with any intention of going, but just so I can be exposed to that. I didn't want to rely, no offense to Judge Draper, but I didn't want to rely on what she was saying. I wanted to see it for myself, and so I did. And I also saw people that I went to Thurgood Marshall School of Law with, and I got a chance to kind of rub elbows with them and get an idea of what was going on. So I was well versed what was going on in Houston. Yeah. So collectively, for those reasons, I wanted to make an impact. I was ready for a transition. I had done everything that I felt like I can do in New Orleans. And so what better place than come, right? Because I already had the love there, and now I get to actually put action to my love there. Now, what my weakness was I didn't know anything about, Judge Draper was not a judge at the time. She was going to be a PDO. I was looking forward to trying cases with her. Yeah. When I said yes to the offer, I found out she got appointed. And so I literally had no political ties. I kind of had to start over. And so it wasn't about that. It was really about being in a place that I knew accepting and embracing energy defense. Because if you have the funding and you have people that embrace it, you can really make an impact.
I remember I was at Thurgood Marshall at a CLE and you spoke, and I was extraordinarily impressed. It was before anything about the MAC was going on or anything like that. You remember that CLE? I was
remember
there.
At Thurgood Marshall,
yeah.
I didn't even know about a MAC or anything about it at the
that wasn't even around. And the presentation you gave was awesome, and I've used it, and I had a ton of respect. You had a little bit more hair and you're a little bigger, but you cut your hair and you trimmed out a little bit. But what I'm saying is we knew that you were something special, and the PDO had gotten something so great.
Thank you.
So the question I think that the live wire was asking was, you were a big recruit. I mean, because the PDO was actively recruiting people. And they still are the best and the brightest of talents throughout the country and throughout the local bar. And you were among, well, this guy's coming in from New Orleans, and he's going to give a presentation, and and he's done some good things, and it was great. And so you're in the trial practice, and you're doing these things, and you make this transition. What made you leave the trial practice and decide to become? What was the director of the MAC? And the same thing, I see Nick all the time. Nick, he's your executive director, or what his official?
Sure, yeah. The official title, I'm the executive director, and Nick is the deputy director.
Deputy director, and same thing with Nick. Nick's a phenomenal. Everybody loves Nick. Nick's been
He's amazing.
Right.
Amazing.
And the idea that you guys would, if you're anything like Nick, which you are, right? Like trial lawyer, trial warrior. You would leave the trial practice and go to what some would consider more of an administrative position, or more of a different position
aspect, yeah.
Than living and dying in the courtroom. What were some of your thoughts on leaving the office and transitioning there? And I think this is what they're saying, is that you might have interviewed somewhere else, but then you took the MAC job. Why? What made you go to that next step?
Sure. And Travis County, I did have some interest there whenever they had a public defender chief opening. I did, just full transparency. And honestly, I did that. I did look into it, but honestly, I didn't know much about Austin, honestly.
It's changed, bro. It's changed.
I still do not know that much about Austin, but it was a challenge that I was looking forward to possibly embracing. But really, my heart all along was here. I think that I had been exposed to every position that you can do in public defender's office, and I was ready for a change in leadership. One of the things I will say, ironically though, whenever I moved from New Orleans to Houston, I was kind of exhausted with supervision. I was looking forward to just really being, and I did, just being a trial attorney again, say again, in New Orleans in supervision, we never gave up being a trial. You were just both.
Yeah.
And so that being said, I was looking forward to the break. But as I got exposed and seen more things, I never really shied away from the opportunity, if it presented itself, to lead an office. Not at the supervisory level, but to lead an office and kind of be the change you want to see. As a litigator, you're always punching against a wall, punching against a wall, punching against a wall, one client at a time. Well, now I wanted to have the opportunity to empower the attorneys who are punching against that wall, right? Because I've seen the tools that I think that attorneys can make attorneys even more powerful than they already are, right? I can only do so much as a litigator. Now I get a chance to at least have the opportunity, right, to at least empower attorneys to be everything that I wanted to be, as far as in what set me back, right, from being that. And that's what made me pursue ultimately the executive director position. But admittedly, when I came to Houston, I didn't know about it, even though it existed when I came.
Right.
I did not know about it. I found out about it while I was at PDO.
Well, I think, and as we're talking about it, because the defense bar, as big as we are, largest local criminal defense bar in the country, you're in Houston, you got 4 million in the Harris County proper, one of the biggest places on the land, but it's a pretty small community in the sense of we all know each other, especially for those who do appointments.
I'm seeing that.
And let me tell you, how did it feel? Because I'll tell you, the MAC didn't come in here with open arms. Don't get me wrong. There were factions, and you had groups that said, yes, we'll embrace the MAC. Then you had people. Then you had the group saying, no, we don't embrace the MAC. Then you had people saying, yes, we do. And coming in I'm not saying you were an outsider, but coming in from as a newcomer.
Absolutely.
That had to have been tough, man, because you're coming in, you're trying to do the right thing, which we're going to get to, but you're trying to do the right thing. You have this defense bar who can be champions and warriors and like slayers and just raw. And you got Kenneth Hardin that's coming in. They're like, who's this guy? And everybody's like, he's gonna take our money. How did you get through that, man? I mean, talk to me about your feeling, because you're about to apply for something that everybody thinks is going to destroy the defense bar and destroy everything. Not everybody. But there's a loud voice on one side that says it is. And I will go on record and say I'm in favor of the MAC. I think more people need to come in. I don't think everybody needs to. I think there's plenty of work to go around is what I'm trying to say. So long as, and you come in and you're taking on a defense bar, you're an outsider. That's tough, because I think if someone had come in from the inside, they would have been crucified, man. They would have just been like, woo, like, it would have been called names and traitor and all these kind of things, which I'm sure you have been too.
Right.
How did that, I'm sure, obviously, how did it make you feel? But I'm sure that it made you feel like terrible. But at the same time, your resilience has paid off, and we actually have the MAC now. Right. Talk to me about your thought process on dealing with a defense bar and trying to make the defense bar feel comfortable about what you're doing.
I think the only way you can do that is being authentic. And so I'm about to be authentic with you even more as far as why. I'm used to being an outsider. I've been an outsider since I can remember being in kindergarten. I've been an outsider in the sense of racially. I've been an outsider in situations and circumstances I've been in. I've been an outsider and not following trends if I see other folks doing it. I've been an outsider as far as in looking at my community and seeing people like me make different decisions, right? I've been an outsider. I've always been labeled an outsider because I wasn't doing what was expected to me. I wasn't playing basketball. I was picking up a book, right? I went the music route rather than doing a lot of things my peers were doing. I was an outsider then. I was an outsider at some points at LSU when I went to undergrad in different things that I was doing. So I'm comfortable with that. I was an outsider at Pete. I was outsider because I've seen this before with the defense bar. Back when the public defender's office is not too much newer than Harris County is, as far as their public defender's office, right? And there was rejection to the public defender's office being there in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. I've seen that. We were the outsiders there. But one thing I've learned about constantly being the outsider is that your actions will speak louder than people's perceptions. And that is really what my strategy is here. I understand that people have their doubts. If I were in their position, I would too. Especially the fact that people haven't rubbed elbows with me. Right. But I don't run away from the challenge of being, because sooner or later, people will see that you're about what you say, right? No, we're not trying to take away people's money. We're certainly trying to add to the value of the presentation. Why would I give up my career as a litigator? I mean, one thing I think hopefully it comes across is I'm passionate about being a litigator. Why would I give that up? PDO is a great job. Why would I leave PDO unless I really wanted to try to make an impact in attorneys? Because I've seen in New Orleans what happens when they don't have it. Now, what happens whenever you are investing in attorneys that do have it? Now you have an opportunity to do that. And I know with that support, with judicial support supporting the MAC, with commissioner's court supporting the MAC, I have an opportunity here, right? And I think over time, if we continue to show that support to the defense bar, it happens every time. Sooner or later, you won't be the outsider, you'll be the embraced. And that's what I'm looking forward to. So is it an ideal? Is an ideal vision? Is it a dream deferred? Hopefully not. But I hope while I'm in this position and hope to be in a long time, I hope that I can change minds. That's what we do as litigators. We change perspectives.
I will say from.
I want to say though.
Yeah.
I want to say though, to anybody who watching this or otherwise thinks that Kenneth is an outsider or sees him as that term is almost offensive, because the only people who get labeled outsiders are people who are now the inside, right? What Kenneth was describing before we had this question to him was he took this job in part because he wanted to go from being the one-person soldier to leading an army and trying to lead an army of people who are like-minded and who are mission-driven the way that he is towards justice for individual clients. And my experiences, and if we have to do disclaimers, JB, you're talking about Kenneth's signature on the vouchers. This man sitting right there pays both of us.
Yeah, I know his signature
his name is on my check.
I see it on my dreams, man.
They pay for this stuff behind me and over my head. So we should all say that, like, thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Harden.
thank you,
And
Mr.
may I
Harden.
say, after the MAC has started, I'm getting paid more. I'm actually getting paid for the work that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And here's the other things that the MAC has done for me. I had a problem with a judge right before the MAC before Kenneth's name started signing the vouchers. I had a visiting judge, who cut my voucher like dramatically. And I don't usually complain about that, but at this time I was like, whoa, this is a case I put like 40 hours into. I don't understand why this got cut. So I reached out to my MAC resource attorney, and I always sent one email. And then they took care of it. That judge got it resubmitted to him. He changed it by $5. The MAC saw that he just barely changed it, and they rejected it. And they went back to him and said, no. This is the amount that is supposed to be paid. And they corrected it. I sent one email. Yesterday, I had a client who's in crisis in the Harris County Jail, and we could not get through to anybody on the phone. I was homesick and couldn't go over to the jail myself. So we sent an email to Gillen and the MAC social work director, and he went today and went and saw him, checked on him, made sure he's getting his medication and all that. Like, these guys are here to help us. Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association is a private organization or nonprofit organization that exists to support the private defense bar. The Office of the Managed Assigned Counsel only exists as long as there's a private defense bar. If the public defender's office takes over all criminal defense in Harris County, there will no longer be a managed assigned counsel because they will take care of all that. So there is no outside. Like,
Kenneth came in as an outsider, bro. Kenneth came in as an outsider from Louisiana. Nobody knew him. No. He came in, he took over the MAC, and everybody hated him for a second. But now you're cool. I swear to you.
Hope so.
Justin, to say something different, you're not being genuine. The MAC came in, everybody was pissed off.
Shame on
no.
Anybody. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
that's what happened. He's cool now.
I'm saying shame on anybody who took that view. From day one, the most ludicrous thing.
I agree. I mean, I thought the MAC needed to happen because I think there was a ton of favoritism that was being played, ton of it, and it wasn't fair. And I will tell you, the amount of people that are now being able to take appointments is what is needed. It's what's needed, and there's more people taking appointments, and I'm getting paid more. Straight. And Justin, Allison Mathis says, I think the MAC says, I don't know if Kenneth should be paying you better if that's the art that you're buying in your house.
Well, she's talking about the painting that my dead father painted.
Oh, snap. That's on you, Allison. That's on you, Allison. That's on you, Allison. That's on you. No, I would say, like, for example, now you have these attorneys who have been dying to get involved and who couldn't because of the barriers that were involved.
Right.
You almost had to haze yourself into the appointment system. Okay, you had to pay your dues. You had to pay it and just get bloodied and beg. And then finally, at some point, someone would say, okay, you can come. And that's no more. And I think that's freaking awesome because I could name 10 attorneys right now. Two of them being my brothers, and 2 more of them being lawyers that I work with, and then like 6 more that are my friends, that they're getting appointments, and they're good lawyers, and they're kicking butt, and they're getting paid what they should. And without that vision, it couldn't happen. So let's talk about your vision.
Sure.
Okay, fine. You apply to be the MAC director.
Sure.
And who hires you?
It was a very voluminous interview process. It was about a 4-month process. It was a national recruiting process. And the Commissioner's Court authorized, as I understand it, authorized a hiring committee that consisted of judges, criminal court law judges, consisted of some members from the bar. I believe there was an ACCLA representative there as well. I remember the hiring committee being about 20 people. It was about 3 or 4 different interviews. One of the interviews actually had a written component. And so it was a lengthy process. I didn't get the impression that there were no favorites played. I didn't really know I may have known one person on that hiring committee, and it played out over a whole process. So Commissioner's Court hires me. But as far as the hiring process, they delegated that at least to a hiring committee that consisted of these different groups. So as far as who I report to, it is the Commissioner's Court that can decide to hire, fire, those kinds of things. That stays within there just like any other department head.
So you get the position, and then I guess the next step is you got to build you got to build this vision in your head. Did you look to other models and?
Yes.
What was your and what were they and talk to us about how you created what I mean, this is going to be one of the largest MACs in the county. In the country, it has to be. Where did you look to for inspiration?
Sure. I first started where we were, right? This is at the time, the fourth MAC in the state of Texas. You have Collin County, who primarily does mental health. You have Lubbock, who is the first, and they're actually, they're not a county, MAC. You have Travis County, right? And then you have us, and then now you have Bexar County out in San Antonio, but as of now, they're very, very new, maybe like 4 months old at this point. So I can't say that I looked at Bexar. But I did reach out to each of those directors. I had one-on-ones with them and started talking to them about what is a MAC, even basic questions from their perspective. What is a MAC? How is your?
Was there any MAC or thing like it in Louisiana?
Absolutely not. No.
Interesting. Okay.
They're just embracing the concepts of full-time public defender offices.
Wow. Okay.
So there are full-time public defenders offices there, but there was no MACs to turn to in Louisiana. There were no. Sorry. I also went outside of Texas. I spoke with Nancy Bennett. For those of you that do not know who Nancy Bennett is, Nancy Bennett was the executive director of the only statewide MAC office in Massachusetts. That is where a lot of the publications that inspired Texas, TIDC, to even look into MAC offices. And so I spoke with her and had a great meeting with her. I spoke to Lindy Froelich, who is the executive director of one of the oldest conflict offices in the U.S., and that is the Alternative Defense Council in Colorado. So I spoke with a lot of these folks to get their perspective on what a MAC is, what does caseloads look like, how are they structured, what are some of their challenges, what are the things that they embrace, how did they handle it with the defense bar. That's how we came up with some of the ideas. Yep. That's how I came up with some of the ideas of informationals. Some of you may have heard of the informationals in the input groups, because we didn't want to build a MAC. Yes, I had visions, and yes, I had a mission, but what good is that if I don't know where we already are from a defense perspective? Because there are people like yourself that's been practicing in Harris County much longer than me. Yes, I was licensed in Harris County well before I took this job or PDO, but still, I don't know it like you do. I can have all these great visions from my experience, but if your input is in it, what does it matter? So that was a lot of our source too. So I thank all of you who have tuned in and actually listened and asked questions. It wasn't as formal before though, because I was grabbing people like Tiffany Hill and saying, hey, tell me, what are your thoughts about this?
You mean Judge Hill?
Now Judge Hill.
You mean Judge Hill now?
Now
That's
Judge
true.
Hill. Now Judge Hill. Literally pulling people just in the hallway and asking them questions.
Okay, so you go. You do your research, and you're like, okay, you got to get it done by this time.
Right.
The big question, at least on my mind, is how in the world? I mean, I know how in the world because of your vision, your leadership, your skills, and your strength. I know how you got Nick, but how'd you get Nick? All right, like I get it. Like birds of a feather flock together. I get it. But how'd you get Nick?
You know, well, the preparation that I was doing the interview process, not even waiting till after. But with Nick, so Nick and I ironically we worked on different floors of PDO. We didn't see each other, right? I honestly was not one of the ones that had the privilege of taking advantage of his expertise that he offered at PDO. Where Nick and I met each other and started to interact, I got a chance to know him as a person. And I saw that he was a person that stood up to bullies. Not saying that I'm calling anybody bullies, but that's the idea of defense attorneys. We stand up to what we believe is bullies against our client. And I saw that in Nick from the very beginning, because he and I were asked and I'm thankful for Alex for doing this, Chief Bunnan. He asked myself and Alex to be part of the training committee at PDO, the committee that puts on CLEs. That's where you met me when I started putting on some of the trainings. I just actually participated in that training, and Nick was on that committee. And whenever we met every week, and Nick he didn't hold back. I like that. It reminded me of what I did in New Orleans. He wasn't afraid to be the only voice in the room that went a different route, but his heart was always in the right place because he had the clients first, he had the attorneys with him as far as and how do we empower attorneys to be there, and I knew that whatever I did in the future, if I ever had the opportunity to lead, that I knew that someone like Nick, I won't say Nick himself, but someone like Nick would be someone that I wanted to be alongside with me or to just rub elbows with. And it just so happens that that opportunity presented itself whenever I was in this position. He wasn't the first hire, actually, but as far as within the MAC. But whenever we were looking for a deputy director, obviously Nick was one of the candidates that applied. We were happy. He was by far, to me, one of the best candidate, and honestly, he's done nothing every day but confirm that. He's everything that I'm not as far as in his style and his approach, and I think that's actually pretty good because wherever I have blind sides, he can see. Wherever he may have blind sides, I can see. We both have the vision, we both have the values, we both have the heart, but we approach things two different ways. If you talk with Nick and talk with me, we speak differently.
Very
But I actually think that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And I think that's what makes us a good team. And I think he is great for Harris County, not just for the MAC. He's great for Harris County.
So then you start to bring in your team, okay? So you bring in the team.
I was thinking that you were going to say that you and Alex arm wrestled over him and you beat Alex, but I like your answer better. But I just had this vision of you and Alex Bunnan in his office arm wrestling, and you were like, for Nick Hughes, Alex.
Look, Kenneth was bigger back then, okay?
I was a little heavier.
Nick, so.
No, okay, so you get your team together, right? All right, and so talk to us about your vision for the MAC. Let's talk about like your approach, okay? What is your, now I don't know, and I don't want to put words in your mouth,
Oh, no,
okay?
absolutely.
I don't. But what are we hear things like the MAC wants to embrace or a holistic defense, or like what are some of the themes that you as a MAC or goals that when you're putting together this organization?
Sure.
What are some of the things that go through your mind, and how did it end up?
The values were...
What does that mean, a holistic defense?
Absolutely. So holistic defense is basically the concept that a case doesn't just start with a charge and end with a disposition. Is everything that happens in between of looking at why someone is charged, right? That may mean fighting for someone's innocence. That may mean fighting towards mitigation. That may mean advising someone's immigration consequences. That may mean investigating a case, and hopefully it does mean investigating a case, because people forget that that's an extension of the Sixth Amendment. So it's every component other than just lawyer arguing in court. It's whatever that client or case needs, right? So that's the holistic approach. No piece is more valuable than the other. They're all collectively needed. And I know that from failure in my own, with thinking me, the litigator, was the star of the show. But if I'm thinking I'm the star of the show, I may be an important piece, but then obviously I am not client-centered, I'm attorney-centered, right? And that is not necessarily, in my opinion, the most effective way to represent someone. So the idea of holistic representation is including all of those pieces, and that's why one of the things that we promoted within our office, right? And so we really stand by high-quality representation, client-centered advocacy, and we want to be community-oriented. Now, the high-quality representation, I think, is big because when you go talk to people, everyone says everyone deserves. Y'all hear it in voir dire, right? I know y'all say voir dire out here, but y'all hear it in voir dire. Everyone deserves a fair and equal representation, right? We could do better than that, right? Whenever someone pays thousands of dollars for an attorney, and it's well-deserved because I know how hard people work, right? They expect high-quality product. But just because someone can't afford an attorney, why should they get any less? So in other words, it's not just about equal and fair, right? Anybody can give that political answer. It's about making sure it's just as high quality that if someone paid thousands of dollars for, and I'm not trying to offend anybody who is making good money. That's great. But we want to make sure that our attorneys are given that. I'm sick of the perception and sick of that pretend court-appointed perception that's out there, which is why we value the community piece. Right? We want to change that perception. That doesn't just help the client, but that helps all of you. Right? I'm sure there are a lot of you that work hard. You know days where you've had headaches sitting at your office because people are looking at what they think you are, thinking you're a less version because you're free. Right? And that's not true. Right? And we want to empower attorneys to make sure that they have every resource at their disposal to be able to do that.
And so as you're speaking, we're getting pops on the live wire here that talk about, okay, let's talk about getting an investigator as a
Right.
MAC, I don't want to. Is it a MAC appointed attorney or is it an attorney appointed by the MAC? Let's talk about how do you get investigators and how do you get immigration consults? How do you get mitigators? What's the process for that? Are they available?
Sure.
And is there a timeline if they're not available on how to get them?
Sure. I'll address the first part of your question. We've been using the term MAC appointed only because we're trying to separate from court appointed, right? We definitely want to make it clear that it's no longer a court appointed system. And that's why we've been using MAC appointed. We're not trying to state ownership over attorneys because we respect their independence, but we definitely want to make a distinction between that and a staff attorney, but at the same time distinguishing that it's no longer a court appointed system. But to your question, we don't mandate that people use our services. Right?
Okay.
We're not in the business of micromanaging attorneys, right? Yes, we have to provide oversight, but I don't want attorneys to ever get scared or confused that oversight means micromanaging. Now, what we do want to encourage it. We do hope that attorneys are utilizing those services because most of your cases probably do need them. So to that point, we want to make it easily available. So what we've done is we've organized templates for attorneys to be able to request. They are on our website. We're in the process of making our website attorney portal only, to where there's a password for attorneys once they're a MAC appointed attorney. But you request a template, right? And then that template has a list of questions that about your case that only you can answer, that may signal, right? Because you may identify that you need an investigator or an immigration, but then what is the actual issue, right? So whenever that template gets to our immigration attorney, whether it's a consult, an advisor, or any level of participator that needs to be in the case, or the investigator, they at least know where to start and where to track. So that's how we do it. And it also allows us to keep metrics and to make sure to know that they're being used, so we can be in a place to argue that, hey, we need to continue to fund these pieces of our offices. So in the short span, that's how they're requested.
Do you have a roster of?
And as someone who's done it, it takes 5 seconds.
It really does.
Real quick email. Everything is kept confidential.
It is.
They actually tell you, don't put things in here if you don't want to. Then you get directly contacted by the person, so you can keep things private and confidential. Right. And then you can save, in your file, you can save your request.
Right.
Are you filing?
So you just have everything.
Are you filing a motion, an ex parte motion to request investigator, or is it more a request to the MAC to have an investigator?
You just fill out a form. Fill out a form. And the investigators are not, correct me if I'm wrong, Kenneth, but the investigators are like you and me, JV. They're private investigators. They just contract like we do with the MAC office. They're not on the county payroll.
Are they on
investigator who I privately hire for my office, she's on the MAC thing, and she can be one of the ones that gets appointed.
Can you request your own investigator or immigration consult person, or is it kind of like a wheel as the defense bar is?
It's similar. It works similar to a will. What Amelia is our chief investigator, and what she did and still doing is getting a collection of investigators. Most of those investigators, ironically, has come from the attorney. So it usually ends up where attorneys are still working with investigators. It's just that we make sure we have that extra vetting process and making sure that certifications are there and kept up, making sure that they've experienced the training that they say they're qualified for. So when an attorney is actually requesting an investigator, that they know they're requesting a competent one, right? Because you may obviously get an investigator you work with before, but what if in this case where they're maxed out and you may get someone, you want to at least have some type of certification in knowing that this person is competent to do the work that they're doing. So they contract directly with us, and that is really what the difference is.
And is it the same process to get a mitigator? Do you have any mitigation people on you, or is it something that's yet to come, or do you have any for immigration stuff, do you have those individuals on staff too, or on the roster, or is that something to come?
Yes. In fact, Justin gave a reference to Galan earlier, who's our social worker supervisor. I actually passed Galan while he was going to visit your client, Justin, today, coming back from court. And so we have a team of social workers led by Galan. Galan has 3 social workers that work under him to collectively make a team of 4. And mitigation is one of the services that you can request within that. It could be competency, it could be a psychological assessment, it can be mitigation, it could be any of those things there, right? That may, depending on what your case may need. We're also trying to really branch out to any other client services that we can do. One of the things we're looking at, for example, as you know, a lot of times The DA office has these mandatory courses that clients have to take, and sometimes they get you a dismissal. So what we do is we have satellite offices in our office. They're for reservation for attorneys because some attorneys have offices that are far away. So if you contact our, and that's not even a grant requirement, it's just something we added. So you can contact our offices. We have 2 reserve offices. There is a desktop computer, and we do also have code books in there as well if you need that, and you can meet with your client because our office is in walking distance. But I say that to do this. We've also made it available for clients with a social worker present where they can take these online courses, right? And that way they can complete these courses, and that way attorneys can be wherever they need to be and doing what they're doing while their client is doing that. We've had that happen already. And so we're trying to expand our services in any way in order to try to help attorneys and make them more effective. We're looking at another thing we're looking at is rideshare program. We haven't done it yet.
Wow.
But we're looking at a rideshare program because we realize there's transportation issues with clients getting to court. Those things can help attorneys. They can help all of you. So we're really looking at many ways. We have the grant requirements that we have to do, but we're saying, okay, how can we take it a little bit further? How can we take it a little bit further? And that's one of the reasons why we want attorneys to continue to contact us, talk with us, learn about us. My thing is you don't have to like the Mac, but at least learn about us and then decide. Don't decide first, right? At least do what we do in voir dire. Tell them to listen, to evaluate testimony, and then make your decision. And all I'm asking is for us to do the same thing when it comes to the MAC office. And if we're not about what we say, throw stones, kick rocks, throw apples at the office. I mean, don't do that. You might get arrested.
We get appointed and paid for it, though. It's fine.
Right.
I'm kidding.
So we're really trying to do those things. I know I took a moment to try, connect it to that, but yes, we offer mitigation, but that's not all we offer.
I've used maybe I shouldn't tell you this, but I've used the social workers and I've said, just stay away from the case. Just go help my client get a plan for when they get released. If I got someone with mental health issues who's not stable on their medication, or someone with substance abuse or alcoholism issues, or someone with housing issues, or a lot of times all 3, then I'll send Ms. Shark or Gillen over there, and they're great at building rapport.
They really are.
My clients love them. And they can get a plan in place, and then I can go to the judge and say, Judge, if you'll consider a PR bond, here's what their plan that they put together is. And my clients are like excited about this stuff. I've told them, I don't want you to talk about the case. I don't want mitigation yet. I don't need any of that. Just get them like excited and a plan so that if they get out, taxpayers watching, people who care more about money than humans, well, guess what? It saves you money because they get out and they don't go right back in.
Between January and March,
long-term plan here.
Between January and March, the social worker team secured 5 dismissals.
Wow,
that's awesome. That's great. They're not even lawyers, and they're like getting cases dismissed. I know lawyers who took court appointments who they haven't gotten a dismissal in years.
Hey, look, I'm trying. All right, I'm trying.
Hey, man, I saw you #1 dismissals for what? March and April. Like more dismissals than days of the month.
Look, it's because we got teams of people. Like, we have teams, and a lot of it's from the MAC. I'm not kidding. So, for example, it wasn't my case, but I think it was my brother. It was my brother's case. My brother's. We're all on the MAC, right? And he requested an investigator, and he got. And I won't name any names or anything like that, but he got this investigator, and I'm like, dude, I just paid this guy on another case, like same case. I just paid him a whole ton of money because he does awesome work.
Right.
And he got the same quality of it's the same investigator because he can do the same work because I know he just does good work all around for being appointed to a case to somebody who couldn't help themselves. Who there's no way that this person could ever afford this guy. But the fact that he's getting not only my brother, who I was just, in my opinion, he's a better lawyer than me and quality up the roof. He's getting the same quality representation as to somebody who could have paid the guy $5,000-$10,000 and paid the lawyer fees and paid everything. And that, I think that was really in my mind when I said, you know what, this thing's legit. Like, they're doing what they're doing, what you said you would do, which I'm very impressed with. Talk to me about your staff. How many you've talked about these groups and people? How many people are in the MAC that's like working in the MAC?
Sure.
How many? Talk to us about your structure and how it's laid out.
Sure. So there are 20 people in the MAC. Out of the 20, that, and of course, that includes me. Now, out of the 20, the grant is public, so I don't want people to get confused when we say 20 and you're looking at the grant and say, well, there's 18 here. That's because 2 out of those 20 are county-funded positions. The 2 that I'm referring to are community engagement specialists who we just hired and a juvenile division chief. Now, I don't want to confuse people with that because, no, we are not operational in juvenile. That position was brought in simply to plan in the event that there is operational, really, and that was really at the guidance of the county. But nonetheless, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing to have Molly Gilmore with us, who's been also helping with some of your voucher reviews, given the volume of them. But the structure, we have a 5-person leadership team. And it's led, and that 5-person consists of myself, Nick, Molly, who's the juvenile division chief, and Carrie Ellis, who some of you have probably seen in court, who's our misdemeanor division chief. And she's also been hosting the CLEs as well. And then finally, our office administrator, who's Haiti Miranda. She does all of our financials, our budgets, everything that we need to know from purchasing, and as far as the county agendas, everything, our connection to anything county specific or even grant specific, and she's kind of been a jack of all trades there. We also now, from there, it divides into a holistic defense services and then trials and training. Now, the trials and training is a team that y'all have seen, Carrie, and then the 4 resource attorneys.
Awesome.
Right.
The 4 resource attorneys are bending over back and, quite frankly, probably working harder than, I mean, I can only imagine how hard their jobs are, which have been phenomenal.
They are great. They're great people. And then we have the holistic defense team, and that's led under Nick, and that's where you have the immigration. That's where you have Galan and the social worker team, right? That's where you have Amelia, the chief investigator. And so that's really where it's more or less broken up. We do have an IT, a systems administrator, Ray Umali, who is amazing. He was in court with me, for any of you that may have seen me in court earlier today. And so, yes, I'm proud to have this team. And we also have our program administrator, who's also in our holistic piece, and her name is Karen Ellis. For those of you
everybody knows Karen.
So everyone knows Karen. Mm-hmm. When I tell you that this person has been critical, a lot of the vouchers.
I'll tell you, Karen has been an incredible mouthpiece between the MAC and the Defense Bar.
Oh my goodness!
She's been awesome.
I can't say enough words about it. And look, not only that, imagine the amount of vouchers that come through our office when you had 16 people and now it's down to 1, and then the review process that's needed, right? And we've identified ways that we think we really need to be stronger there. But Karen has been amazing. She was the one that really helped us understand the language of the vouchers, right? You have to understand what they are before you start implementing some of the things that a lot of attorneys are starting to see benefit, right? Mm-hmm. The out-of-court hours and how they're itemized, right? The in-court hours. We didn't do that necessarily because attorneys want more. First of all, judges control that, right? But we do incentivize out-of-court hours because that is going to be putting more work towards the client on the case. That's what we incentivize. Yeah. But Karen helped us to get an understanding of that, to know the transition that was needed, right? You're working with a bunch of IT departments to get these changes. That's why you've been seeing some of the delays in the vouchers, right?
Let's talk about, we have 3 minutes left.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go on.
No, it's absolutely perfect. But we cannot finish the show without everybody knowing what's going on with the vouchers.
Absolutely.
Go for it, man. We got 3 minutes. What's going on with the vouchers? You got 3 minutes, Kenneth.
It's been challenging. One of the reasons why you've been seeing delays is because obviously the vouchers are automated, and what we did is we made changes. No longer are they termed, right? Now you see itemized out-of-court hours. Now you see in-court hours.
I'm sorry.
We got 2 minutes, Justin.
I know. Just stop, JB. What we're talking about here are, because our audience is not always lawyers, but whenever a case goes on for 2 days or 2 years, whenever it's done, we itemize all of our time that we spent on the case. We submit it, and then the county approves that, and then the lawyer gets paid after we've done all the work.
Right.
And what I think JB's talking about is that some lawyers experience the delay in the pay, submitting the vouchers, and then the delay. And so I just wanted a little background. We've been talking kind of around that bush, and we haven't had a show in a few weeks. The audience may not be aware of that.
Sure. So
go ahead.
To kind of start where you left off, we're taking on the voucher process, but the delays have been attributed to the trickling in of vouchers, right? Because now we're handling all vouchers. At first, they were piecemealing them, right? Like maybe saying anything after March 28th because it was the first cycle after we became automated in December. Now we're taking on all vouchers. So all these vouchers that may have pre-existed unsigned are all coming in at once with new vouchers. So it's sorting through all of those. It's making sure that there's a review process. We can't just blanketly sign them.
Right.
We have a duty to make sure that they coordinate with the court calendar, right? And we're having to do that as a 20-person office. So you have people in the office that are doing things that are not necessarily within their job description, just to help with the mass amount. That's a lot of amount. So that's part of the reason for the delay. And one of the delays are making sure that the attorney start date rather than the order date is entered in.
Right.
Because then that is what's tracking all of your payments. And so we're having to make sure those corrections are there. So that's another reason for the delay. And so what we're doing is we're signing them nonstop, at least reviewing and signing them nonstop. And what we're hoping to do is try to really get a push for additional positions to help with that process alone, because those are full-time jobs and y'all need to be paid. Y'all need to be paid as quickly as possible. We support that, and we're going to continue to move as fast as we can in doing that, because we do value that. We don't want to set expectations for y'all, but not empower y'all in making sure that you are meeting the incentives and getting what you should be getting. So it's something that's a value. We do ask for your patience, but we are pushing through. We are receiving all vouchers. And believe it or not, we have worked through a lot of the system glitches, as Nick has been sending. So that's a great thing. At this point right now, it's just handling the mass of them. That is what the challenge is before us right now. And so we are going to continue to look through them. I know I've processed several hundred vouchers just in the last 2 or 3 days. But we do take this seriously. Y'all deserve that, and we owe it to you. And we're going to make sure and stand by that.
Last question. We have like 5 seconds. What about a felony Mac? It's coming or what?
We're in the process of having those discussions, right? And one of the things that we want to talk, I've been having conversations with certain judges and just informing them and letting them know the progress of the MAC. Right now, we're still not operational. The next step is to try to get a letter of support for funding. And so we're having conversations of that. Even if a letter of support was signed off by the judges, it would be very ambitious to think it would happen by year's end, because funding has to be there, right? Funding meaning not just from the county, but from also TIDC.
I think we're out of time. Justin, why don't you send us out?
Appreciate you coming back, Mr. Harden. Thanks very much for all your work, Mac, and look forward to hearing more progress as it goes along.
For Justin Harris, Mr. Kenneth Harden, JV, Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, thank you so very much. Thank you, Mr. Harden.
Oh, thank y'all for having me. Anytime, I'll be here.
Yep.
Oh.